What's going on, guys? We're back. We got a video. This is going to be exciting because it's Cappy Army and it's a Russia-Ukraine video. I should say Ukraine-Russia, Ukraine before Russia. But it says, Russians assault a Bradley, parentheses, it goes very wrong. If I'm not mistaken, spoiler alert, it's 100% KIA and casualty rate on the Russian side of things. So this is going to be sick. And Cappy always does a great job breaking it down. So do me a favor, go check out Cappy's channel if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. Please like, share, subscribe to this channel. We're trying to blow it up, man. And jump in the Discord for our uncensored footage if you're not already, including all of our Ukraine resources if you're on your way out here. Listen, hold on. Before we jump into it, I get comments daily, direct messages daily about people who are coming out here to Ukraine or they're already in Ukraine, and based on the videos that they're watching on this channel, they have decided to go with one unit or another and not go with a shitty unit, and they are still alive because of it. My point is, the more people that see these videos, the more we're helping foreigners that are coming out here to fight in Ukraine. Please share these videos. I love you guys. And like and do that stuff.
Welcome back. Today we're analyzing some of the worst combat footage ever captured. The Russian BTR armored vehicle is assaulting forward across the kill zone in daylight. A Ukrainian anti-tank guided missile explodes just 10 meters to the left of the vehicle.
ATGM.
The BTR keeps gunning it straight down the road past a burnt out armored vehicle. We can see from the drone footage there's a squad of Russian infantry riding on top of the armored vehicle in an attempt to put more distance between themselves and any possible landmines underneath. They are driving full speed ahead through no man's land to a drop-off point. This battle took place in 2024, right after the fall of the Ukrainian town of Avdiivka. Russian forces started assaulting forward in an attempt to quickly capitalize on their gains. This combat footage has been geolocated to here, the town of Berdyansk near Avdiivka. Russian forces are attempting to gain a foothold here. They are attacking from Stevpov and Berdyansk as their two landing points. Their goal is to push their breakthrough as far as possible. They reach the predetermined drop-off point near some houses. The BTR stops and the Russian infantry jump off. They quickly all scatter to where the cover.
This is interesting. In 2023, when I was still in the International Legion, when we infilled to position, it was just like this. We would ride on top of the BTRs, BMPs, because there was no FPV drone threat. There was an occasional drone drop, but they were so bad at that time of the war that we weren't very concerned about it. So now they're still riding on top in Russia. They're still riding on top of these vehicles, but they've got a box over them. That's crazy.
And concealment is on the side of the road. They're aiming to bunker down inside of the homes here and wait for more reinforcements on their position. But first, all the animation work in today's episode is sponsored by SDI. A lot of you guys are interested in a career in repair students who loved it. SDI teaches you how to build. The description or the pinned comment below. Russian infantry have dismounted and are taking cover in the bushes. They appear to be lower ranking, less well equipped compared to some other units that we've seen. Sometimes the initial storm units are filled out with punished soldiers on these high-risk missions. Once the Russian BTR has dropped off the squad, it does something unusual. Instead of staying and laying down covering fire for the infantry, it leaves them there. The reason they're dropped off at this location is because if you notice, the terrain and geography dictate this spot as being the optimal location. It's 500 meters from a river crossing to the west. This is the only way to cross the water gap, is to first send in the Russian infantry across there to clear where the Ukrainians have set up their defenses on the natural water barrier on the west of the river. The BTR drives down the
Natural water. Whoa. Natural water barriers are so big. I used to think, like when I was younger, or maybe a little less informed about some combat tactics, strategies, logistics, that waterways were just relatively easy to pass over, right? You drop in one of those pontoon bridges or whatever, you send the boys over. But Ukraine, if you've noticed, where they're holding the tightest right now, where they've been holding for the last 2, 3, 4 years, like in Zaporizhia, for example, is right up on those waterways, those larger rivers that the Russians cannot cross. That these are perfect trench, kind of like moats, if you will, like moats in medieval times that are those trenches of water around the castle. That's kind of what they're acting like.
Same road that they came from. Suddenly, we see a Ukrainian FPV drone is tailing the armored vehicle. It strikes the top of the BTR.
Great hit.
The explosion may have knocked out the crew inside the vehicle because it comes to a halt. A second FPV strike on its rear armor starts a fire inside the BTR. The vehicle can be seen burning.
One-way trips, man. They're always one-way
The drone
trips.
strike focused on the armor first instead of attacking the Russian foot soldiers. This was done as a way to cut off the Russian troops' ability to send in more reinforcements and supplies. Here we see a Ukrainian M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle driving up within 50 to 100 meters away from where the 7 Russian infantry were dropped off. They are only one house away. The M2 Bradley is attempting to get a better view of the dismounted soldiers in order to get an angle to fire on them. The Russian infantry are pinned down by explosions and gunfire. They are unable to stand up and get into the safety of the house. The M2 Bradley fires high explosives to stand
Look right here.
up
Hold on.
and gunfire. Angle to fire on them. The Russian infantry are pinned down by explosions and gunfire.
Yeah, you can see the guys behind the telephone pole. Oh, I can't show you. Look. Right here. I will tell you what, man. I would never, ever, ever want to be that close to a Bradley firing at me. Oh my God.
They are unable to stand up and get into the safety of the house. The M2 Bradley fires high explosive shells all around the Russian infantry. Shrapnel flies through them. The Bradley continued firing into the Russian infantry positions. The fire makes it impossible for the infantry to stand up without support from their vehicle's autocannon. There are some parts that are too graphic that we had to cut out here, but the entire 7 Russian infantry squad is killed by the Bradley fire. The tactical error here was that they were dropped off too far forward, and they had no anti-tank weapons on them. The battle has only started though. Russian command sends in a second BTR. It drives straight through a landmine at top speed and keeps going, a piece of its armor hanging off the front. They pass the burnt-out husk of 2 more armored vehicles. The BTR starts taking direct fire from a Ukrainian Bradley, its 25mm cannon shells. We can see shells exploding around the vehicle. They speed up, trying to get out of the kill zone. The Russian BTR reaches the drop-off point where a disabled BTR is parked. The Russian infantry dismount from top of the vehicle. They are under close drone surveillance. A round explodes near the disabled BTR. More shots hit the top of the vehicle and rear. Each one is sending out fragments at the speed of a bullet. What happens next is too graphic to show some of the footage, but the direct fire from...
I'll try to find this, the full footage without any censorship and put it in the Discord.
The Ukrainian Bradley starts impacting on the 2 Russian armored vehicles and the Russian infantry. The rounds cut through the armored vehicles' hulls, fires start to break out around the brush, and the Russian troops attempt to regroup and render aid. Some are unable to get out of the vehicle. They take cover behind the BTR. 13 Russian soldiers are KIA, unable to find cover. 2 Russian soldiers survive and attempt to escape. When the Russian units assaulted forward after capturing Avdiivka, they started to switch on-foot infiltration tactics that we see more of from this point in the war. They begin moving away from using armored vehicles. This Russian infantry team of 4 is moving forward on foot in an attempt to sneak in. They are hiding in a tree line for cover. A Ukrainian FPV drone hits in between the 2 Russian soldiers in the rear of the fire team, wounding them, pinning them down. Then another FPV hits the forward 2 soldiers and has the entire unit disoriented. The strikes from the FPVs act as a visual mark for the Ukrainian Bradley crews over 700 meters away. They developed the tactic of striking as a reference point to aim at. The Bradley laser range finds the distance and a 25mm cannon starts to engage. But these rounds look a lot like airburst, but the 25mm cannon cannot fire airburst munitions. You need a 30mm cannon to fire that type of weapon, at least for these older type of Bradleys. Those shells are instead likely impacting on the trees. The assault in this direction continues with a Russian MTLB dropping off more troops. A Ukrainian Bradley opens fire and the rounds cut through the MTLB, starting a fire. The assault begins with a Ukrainian artillery bombardment. Hundreds of shells rain down on the Russian fortifications. They soften up the defenses for the ground push that's about to happen. Cluster munitions explode all over the town to detonate any anti-tank mines that might be waiting for them.
So we've seen this 3rd Assault Brigade, because that's 3rd Assault Brigade right there. We've seen this assault footage, but not with this much context to the actual assault.
Their surveillance drones watch overhead. Over the next 30 hours, Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade and its soldiers will be locked in some of the most brutal combat of the war. Their goal is to recapture one of the last remaining towns in the entire Luhansk Oblast. This is the battle for the town of Nadiya in Luhansk in March 2025, and I believe it's one of the best examples of combined arms warfare ever caught on video. As shells rain down, suppressing the enemy, the 1st platoon of 7 Ukrainian armored vehicles drives headfirst into the occupied town. The column is led by 2 T-72 main battle tanks that are providing cover fire for 2 armored personnel carriers that are following behind them, about 50 meters spacing in between them. This distance between them prevents one hit from taking out multiple vehicles. The attack is from 5 separate Ukrainian companies. Each one is moving from a different direction on the town, with 2 of the companies cutting off Russia's reserve units in the flank. The tanks lay down fire from their shells as they move forward. Command and control is everything here. Without constant updates, units lose direction fast, especially after sifting drop points of the infantry that we'll soon see. The only thing on their minds here is clearing the kill zone, getting past the minefield, and dropping off the infantry, whose first job is to kill Russian anti-tank teams. This is the kill zone that we're looking at, the open ground between cover where everything is already pre-registered. Russian artillery, machine guns, drones are all dialed in. Survival comes down to surprise, speed.
We talk about this a lot. When I talk about TRPs, target reference points, that's what he's referring to.
Guns, drones.
So these
are between cover.
So these mortars, artillery, drones, other support weapons will have this region right here already graphed out, like on their grids, right? So when they don't have to try to figure out their range and bracket the enemy, right? So that when you overshoot, undershoot, overshoot, undershoot, until you correct that distance until you hit the target, they know exactly what coordinates to plug in right away to hit that location. So when the Russians see the enemy coming, they say, okay, TRP Bravo 16, right? And all of the support weapons teams can pull up the coordinates for Bravo 16. Okay, that is dial that into their whatever weapon systems they're using, and then they're directly on point.
Where everything is already pre-registered. Russian artillery, machine guns, drones are all dialed in. Survival comes down to surprise, speed, spacing, and suppression. It appears like the 2nd tank in the convoy is damaged. It might have hit a mine there or an anti-tank munition hit it, but it continues moving forward. A Russian artillery shell can actually be seen flying through the air there if we slow it down. You can see it impacting just 25-30 meters in front of the M113 armored vehicle. The Ukrainian commander, hanging out the hatch of the armored vehicle, luckily doesn't get hit by any shrapnel. The live battlefield picture is fed back to the brigade's commander, Colonel Andriy Belitsky, who's in control of the operation. Belitsky is newly promoted to brigade general at this point, and he advises from the command post, where he monitors the progress of the offensive. He relays information on the movement of the enemy throughout the mission. Russian shells land all around their vehicle convoy, forcing the Ukrainians to adjust course to their drop-off point. A squad of Ukrainian infantry are crammed into the dark hull of the vehicle. They're protected from shrapnel, but a direct FPV drone hit or an ATGM would punch right through. This village has swapped hands multiple times in the conflict already. It was captured by Russian forces early in the invasion. It's the last one on the way to Kharkiv region, just 3 kilometers from the border with Kharkiv. Then it was reportedly liberated by Ukrainian forces in October 2022. Then, by the following August, the Ukrainian military reported that Nadiya was being regularly targeted by Russian artillery strikes, and the village was heavily contested contested before being recaptured by Russian forces in October 2023. Now, in this new assault, the 5 separate Ukrainian companies aim to retake it from Russia once again. Thermal optics on the Ukrainian drones overhead, as you can see here, monitor another company moving in to their drop-off point. The Ukrainian light infantry quickly drop ramp and disembark from their armored vehicles. Their drop-off point is next to a trench, so the soldiers can quickly get in there and take cover. They immediately start laying down suppressing fire with their rifles to keep the Russian heads down. Infantry dismounts are the most vulnerable moment in this mission. Seconds outside the vehicle, they're exposed, they're disoriented, they're under fire, and this is when most casualties happen. They're not aiming at any enemy there that they can actually see. They're just hoping that their rounds go close enough to the enemy's head to force them to duck while they're vulnerably getting out of their vehicles. The Ukrainian M113 commander gets out of the safety of the armor to try to clear a jam in his 50 caliber machine gun that's supposed to be suppressing the enemy. The vehicle commander tells the infantry on the ground, the dismounts, to run to the nearby tree line in front of them and take cover. You can tell the infantry are turned around. They've been in the dark, loud vehicle this whole time, and they don't have their bearings immediately. The infantry successfully move into the closest tree line, and they try to find cover from artillery, anything to not be out in the open, where they're easy to spot. 3rd Assault Brigade establishes a foothold here in the tree line. Their vehicle that just dropped them off, though, breaks down, and it's deadlined, according to the soldiers. Losing equipment like this is why infantry need to adapt and overcome, because nothing goes as planned. The squad leader points out the direction that they need to go towards the village. Right now, the enemy reinforcements are the ticking clock here. The longer the assault takes, the more likely it is that fresh Russian defenders will arrive to stabilize the line. The Ukrainian infantry aren't even in the town yet. They're still on the approach. It's another 300 meters from their position. They don't push all the way up with the vehicles to avoid Russian anti-tank teams that would take them out. The M113 vehicle pops smoke to cover itself while it's disabled. The smoke canisters conceal its position while they work on recovering it. It disrupts enemy targeting systems. Meanwhile, another armored vehicle lays down autocannon fire to protect them. Up. Everything you're seeing is fed back to command. Drones overhead give a real-time map of enemy movement, letting commanders redirect units mid-fight. Infantry draw fire that reveals Russian positions. Command then sends in FPVs to strike those positions. Then the assault pushes forward. Repeat until the line collapses. The Russians are targeting the armored vehicles, trying to prevent them from leaving. Artillery rounds are falling danger close within 100 meters of the GoPro captured here. That might look far away, but large chunks of shrapnel about the size of your fist can fly further than that and rip a person's limb apart from there. The infantry are yelling to disperse and not to bunch up for that reason. They know from their maps that they have to make it to the end of a nearby pond here.
Найдіть укриття і вийди на мене нормально на зв'язок.
Отобьют связь, чтобы была связь нормальная, и тогда будем перебежечки делать.
Here we're playing the English dub version of the video of the Ukrainian commander's orders so that it's easier for us to follow along, because the fog of war is confusing enough. The problem the Ukrainian infantry have here is they need to advance out past the tree line into an open field where they will be sitting ducks until they reach the next tree line. Here we pause and see a munition explode just a few feet away from this soldier. Here, Ukrainian commander Colonel Andriy Beletsky identifies that Russian soldiers are moving reinforcements in to hold the line. Russia does not want to lose control of the town because it took them 2 months to capture in the first place with 2 full motorized rifle regiments from the 752nd and 254th of the 20th Russian Army. Russian FPV drones buzz overhead. Ukrainian troops hear it, they look up and they start shooting. It appears like they hit the FPV as we see it run off course and explode in the open field. The commander in the TOC has a full picture of the battlefield and he's relaying enemy troop positions. The two sides are fighting over dugouts in this tree line. Some of them are occupied by Russian soldiers within 25 meters distance. It's a close quarters brawl.
See, part of the thing that makes an assault like this so impressive to me is the fact that the Ukrainians don't have as much resources, especially ammunition when it comes in comparison to Russia, right? So when they're oh, dude, that was off center the whole time. Sorry, guys. So before a massive assault like this, you would want to just soften that forest as much as possible. Shit ton of artillery in there, Baba Yaga drones dropping anti-tank mines, cluster munitions, everything that you can to soften up that area. So get a couple casualties in there, create some confusion, some fear, and then you assault. But they don't have that. The Ukrainians don't have that luxury, so they literally pull up in armored vehicles and go in on foot and do it the fucking hard way. So that's what makes this so impressive to me.
The infantry have to clear out this dugout before being cleared to advance the village. Within just 25 meters, whoever reacts first usually survives, which is why they use a tactic called pre-firing, shooting before you even see an enemy. It eats up a bunch of ammo, but your life is worth more than a bullet. Trenches turn into grenade fights quickly at this range.
Yeah.
Then a Ukrainian squad leader has a terrifying realization. He figures out that they were dropped off far from where they were supposed to be. The heavy fire on the vehicles often makes the driver drop ramp and kick the infantry out too soon so that they can RTB and return back to base.
Далеко. Ми ось. А нам треба було ось сюди. Да, далековато.
The unit has to reorient under fire now. This means they will lose momentum at a key moment in the battle, leaving an opening for the Russians to surprise them and exploit them. Command merges two Ukrainian squads and sends reinforcements to help to make up for the error of dropping them off at the wrong place. In every battle, each side holds some of their forces in reserve so that they can deploy them as the battle takes shape, depending on the situation, where there's a weak spot or where there's a spot to exploit. This has been done since before Alexander the Great, and the correct use of your reserve forces can make or break an attack. Ukraine now deploys their reserve units who come driving in. Command commits reserves here on the front line. This is where they send fresh troops where the friendly lines are the weakest. They reinforce there. The best way to imagine this battle is that each squad is fighting its own battle. Each of the 5 companies in the assault are fighting dozens of small battles. The squads are split up, then they merge, and the success of one company helps the other to its left or right. Reserve forces decide fights like this because fresh units committed to the right moment can exploit confusion. They prevent a stalled assault from totally collapsing. The infantry run to clear the gap. While crossing the open terrain, they take artillery fire, but miraculously, they're not hit. Success when crossing open ground depends on how fast you're able to close that gap. The enemy needs to be disoriented. Slowly but surely, Ukraine is getting closer to their original objective point. What you're looking at now is the Ukrainian Mavic drone trying to pinpoint the location of an enemy PKM machine gun that's firing at them, but they're having trouble finding it. In the trench line, they find the enemy's location, they blow the dugout to pieces with an FPV drone. It's too graphic to show here on YouTube, but if you want the uncensored rundowns, they're on Pepperbox, the link is in the description. Commanders instruct the infantry to clear out the trench and tell them it's 15 meters long. These command posts are usually located not far from the battle, so they can maintain communications with them. The Ukrainians clear the trenches while getting live updates on the enemy. The soldiers take a moment to rest inside the enemy's fortification before pressing forward. Ukraine surveillance drones identify Russian troop movements in the distance. There's some FPV drone strikes against Russian troops, and dead bodies now litter the battlefield that we can't show here, but the infantry are advancing past it. Then the infantry find a place to sleep for the night, and on day 2, as we get closer to the end of 30 hours, the combined arms enters into a dance of constant pressure. Infantry are drawing fire, drone strikes in concert with armored advances as you see here. Each element forces the enemy to react until they break. Command spots Russian troops in the trenches and they send FPV drones to that position. The way this assault works, the whole tactic, the meta, is that as these infantry move up, they're forcing the Russian positions to fire at them. Then Ukraine command can pinpoint it and send an FPV drone strike. Rinse and repeat. Then, once enough Russian positions and dugouts have been destroyed, it clears the way for what happens next. The Ukrainian main battle tanks and armor now push up. Now that it's safe, now that there aren't Russian anti-tank teams in ditches nearby, they're able to move forward. In theory, they cover each other in this combined arms movement that relentlessly hammers the enemy.
Вот это вуп нахуй.
It looks like the Ukrainian tank fired out some kind of explosive grenade there against the entire whole tree line. I'm not familiar with what type of munition that is. If anyone knows, let me know. But we see the grenade explode into then multiple different parts of the tree line, clearing it out. A commander mentions a multiple launched rocket system was used. We see the Ukrainian armored vehicles push forward, clearing the path, while explosions go off all around them. Intercepted Russian communications say that they've never seen anything like this before. The infantry start moving through the village and clearing out the trenches and houses with gunfire. The Ukrainian soldier ideally wants to take Russian soldiers captive. It's a directive handed down to them because it helps them in prisoner swaps later with reclaiming their own prisoners of war. At this point, there are a lot of dead bodies that we can't show. Dozens of Russian KIA in buildings and in small ditches on the ground. The Ukrainians check their pulse, confirm that they're dead, and move on. They do what's called an EPW search, that all soldiers train on this, where you go through the fallen documents, looking for any valuable intelligence, maps, or orders that may be useful for command. The troops have made it to their objective. The only thing left is some last remaining Russian holdouts who refuse to surrender. Ukrainian drone spots 2 Russian infantry headed through the field trying to retreat. Small arms fire eliminates them. Now, a year later in 2026, the territory has once again allegedly fallen into Russian hands. Russia claims full capture of Luhansk Oblast for the 3rd time now, although Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade stated that they're still holding the line here and that they are still remaining in control of this village. 3rd Assault Brigade says they're still here and they have the footage to prove it. ISW has assessed that Russian forces control 99.84% of the oblast, with essentially just this last village of Nadiya remaining. War can feel futile in this way, often where the same village with a pre-war population of just 25 people, 3 square kilometers, can be fought over and many hundreds can die over it, and it can change hands multiple times in the span of just a year. But even a tiny piece of territory like this can have significant symbolic meaning and can have a morale effect on the people. Because even though it sounds like a small piece of territory to me or you, this is the Ukrainians' homeland. To them, it's a big deal. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy. Thank you for watching. Check out this video on
Check out Cappy Army, guys, if you haven't already. I'll link him in the title of the video and in the description. But this is crazy. I knew the Luhansk Oblast was pretty much all the way taken, but 99.84% is crazy. That's nuts, man. I was actually recently, just today, a Russian soldier hit me up on, and he seems young to me. He seems like a kid, but he hit me up on Instagram, basically like trying to be homies, and he's like saying, "Hey, this is just business, nothing personal, but we're doing the right thing, and Russia will succeed, and we're making history." And you could tell the amount of brainwash and propaganda that this poor kid has been exposed to. Like, I genuinely felt bad for him hearing some of the stuff he was saying, because he wasn't talking shit or anything like a normal troll, right? He was like just very proud and like, I'm doing the right thing. And I'm like, man, he is so misguided. But anyways, what was my whole point in telling you guys that? Oh, he was saying how they're very proud about the land that they've captured and all the territory that they've able to capture. And I'm like, bro, it's less than 20% or roughly 20% of Ukraine, and we're in year 4 and a couple of months. It's not looking good, man. This is an extremely embarrassing military operation in the eyes of the world. This is very embarrassing for Russia in the eyes of the world. This and on the flip, it's incredibly heroic on behalf of Ukraine to hold off such a large military force. So I don't know. I just wanted to share that and plus we're living such a weird time, right? That, like this soldier who's out east in Russia, technically in Ukrainian territory, is messaging me on Instagram. It's so weird, but um please do me a favor, guys. Like I said, there is a direct correlation in the likes and comments and shares you guys put on these videos in foreigners that are coming here to Ukraine that see this content. I shared in the last couple of videos. Somebody sent me a screenshot of a hotel that they're in Kyiv, in the capital of Ukraine, and they pulled up a YouTube on the smart TV, and the first search in the search bar of the smart TV was different breed TV. So there was a foreigner in Kyiv looking up my videos, trying to figure out what units he was going to go to. This content is working. Please help me blow this channel up, you guys. Let's do it. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next video.